Okay. September of '69, September 30th. Ironically, this was just about a week before Fire Prevention Week, which occurs every year in the first part of October. So at this time, the department was all volunteer, and the volunteers had spent a fair amount of time working on the apparatus, cleaning it up for the open house. So there was a whole lot of work to be done after the fire was all said and done with to get ready for the open house. The footage you're looking at now is from the north, looking down, looking south along Grange Hall. You can look to the left of the fire. You can see a dark structure there. That's a barn that was just east of the barrel factory, and there had been a fire in that probably 2 or 3 weeks before the barrel factory fire that the department had put out. And so during the course of the fire, they actually had crews inside the barn. The barn had not been repaired. There was a hole in the roof from the fire. They were actually using the barn to shield some of the heat from the fire, and throwing water through one of the holes in the roof. From time to time, you'll see there's a couple of spots in here where you'll actually see one of the 55-gallon barrels blow up and sail through the air. You can see in the foreground over on the right now, there's a telephone pole or power pole burning. There were 2 gas stations on the corner, on opposite corners of the intersection, that had to be shut down, and power to all the surrounding buildings down there had been interrupted as a result of the fire. There was also a veterinary clinic on Grange Hall Road. It's been rebuilt or expanded. It's actually on the corner now, but it used to be a little farther north, on the other side of the bridge, north of the creek. And the vet had to come down, and he would board animals as well. Had to get the animals out of the building because it was too hot for them. This is probably about where Research Boulevard crosses Grange Hall now. That's about as far away as where Bob was when he was shooting the footage. There were a number of departments that came to the fire to help out. We called that Mutual Aid. 2 of them, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, came out, and they had one of their big crash trucks out there, and they were applying some foam to the fire. And then also the Dayton Fire Department came out with their foam unit. And later on in the footage, you will actually see firefighters wading through foam upwards of 4 or 5 feet deep. They're almost up to their shoulders in foam. And they were using that to try and smother the fire, but there was just too much fuel and too much heat for the foam to be effective. There is public water in the area now. The which includes fire hydrants. But at the time of the fire, there wasn't any water. It was all wells, and all of the water that was used either had to be trucked in or pumped out of the creek. There wasn't the only really good spot to get to the creek would have been on the bridge, and that was too close to the fire. As it was, several of the pieces of equipment that were there had heat damage to the apparatus. The first engine that got on the scene was engine 2 from the Knollwood station, and it actually got so hot that at one point the plastic dome for the red light on the top of the fire engine melted down, and the red light actually stopped going around because it had just melted around the light fixture. You see a barrel fly off to the right there. Because of the way they stored the barrels, which was for the most part on their ends, the barrels that did blow up and sail blew up into the sky more than they did out. There'll be some other shots in here that you'll notice. A fire of this intensity creates its own wind, and you'll see that the smoke and later on when they're throwing the foam in there, you'll actually see the smoke and the foam drawn into the fire almost horizontally because of the convected currents. Mr. Deal's moved around now, and he's now shooting from in back of one of the filling stations, so he's now looking north at the blaze. Getting close to the point where the foam truck started trying to apply foam on the fire. You can already start to see the ring of barrels sort of surround the fire, almost like a fire ring, which was one of the problems that they had when they tried to get the foam in on the fire. The foam would get up to the barrels, and then the ring of barrels would act just like a fire ring on a campfire. They had to try and use the fire hoses to sweep the foam up over the ring of barrels. Now look at the smoke from the pole over to the left. Okay, there's a big blob of foam now that you see floating through the air. This is all foam trying to smoke the fire, and the heat of the fire is just pulling pieces of that foam right off the blanket. You notice how the smoke's just being drawn directly to the fire. That's because of the convected, the amount of heat that's generating, and the wind, as I said, that it will create itself. You can see the plastic lenses to some of the lights from the filling station over on the right there. They're just sort of blowing in the wind. It had melted. Just look like wet pieces of cellophane hanging off the pole. There's the foam actually coming out of one of the tubes, and you can see the tubing right about in here, and that's the foam that's being pumped out, and they're trying to get it over the barrels and into the fire ring. Very shortly, there should be a shot of. And you can see the heat is just so intense that it just disintegrates the foam. And now that gives you some idea how deep the foam is. Here are the firefighters, and they're wading around in the foam, which is almost up to their chest. And what they're doing is taking the fire hose, and they'll turn it onto what we call a fog, or a wide spray as opposed to a real tight straight stream. And they'll use it just like a broom, and they'll try and sweep it up over the barrels and into the fire. The equipment that we wear has changed dramatically from when this fire was shot and occurred. When I first got on the department, my first fire coat was a rubber raincoat, 3/4 boots, which are like waders that you see fishermen use when they go out into a stream, and a leather helmet. And the problem with the rubber raincoat is it holds all of the moisture, all the perspiration the firefighter would generate at a fire like this inside, and you don't get burned thermally. You get steamed to death. So firefighters could only spend a little bit of time up close, and then they'd have to get back, change shirts, open their coat, dry out some, and then go back up for fear that they would get steam burns inside their fire coats. This is several days after, probably a week, maybe even a week afterwards, because we kept apparatus on the scene for I think about a week, and you can still see that there's some smoldering in the remnants of the barrels. This is again from the north looking south. Railroad tracks are in the foreground. The tracks are since been taken up. The railroad's not there anymore. Over here to the left is the car I was talking about, which is still standing. And Mr. Deal, I believe, gets around to the north and looks, or to the south rather, and looks north, so you get a view from the other side of the structure. The creek is actually right down in here. They had so many barrels that they stored there that before the fire there was actually a bridge that went over the creek so that they could take their forklift on the other side of the creek and drop barrels off. This is Patterson Road out in front. There's a couple of the vertical storage tanks that are referred to. I think there was a total of 12 vertical tanks of various sizes that were there that were ultimately involved in the fire. There's the barn. Again, you can see that damage was not from the barrel factory fire. That was actually from the fire that had occurred two or three weeks beforehand. concrete just isn't designed to take that kind of heat. People don't realize that when concrete is poured, there remains some moisture in the concrete for the life of the concrete. You put enough heat to concrete, you draw that moisture out, and the concrete turns back into what it was originally before they made the concrete, which is sand and limestone.